Before going vegan, sausage McMuffins were my go-to for a quick and easy breakfast, and today we're going to be making some vegan McMuffins, and just like the original, these are tasty and convenient because we're going to meal prep a bunch so you can freeze them for whenever you need a quick and easy breakfast. Oh, and we're also going to be making McDonald's famous breakfast sauce vegan as well. So we're going to whip up some easy breakfast sausage made with TVP, aka textured vegetable protein, and then some quick and easy tofu eggs, both of which are also reasonably cheap. Now, of course, you could use something like Just Egg or Beyond Sausage if you wanna. I have an older video that goes over that, as well as some homemade English muffins. I also have a similar recipe for this in my cookbook, which would be a perfect holiday gift. Links for both in the description. But the TVP sausage is pretty straightforward and simple to make. We're gonna get 1 cup of TVP, and we're gonna rehydrate that in 1 cup of some vegan beef broth or veggie broth. And while that's soaking, let's get our seasoning and flavor mixture going, starting with 2 tablespoons each of mushroom seasoning and nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon each of garlic and onion powder, smoked paprika and ground sage, and then optionally a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed fennel seeds and a few shakes of ground cloves. We're also going to do a 1/4 cup of vegan mayo, but you could also use any neutral oil. I just like the tang and binding that vegan mayo brings to the table. But next is 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses for some iron flavor and color, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, you could also use brown sugar instead, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of vegan Worcestershire, as well as 1 teaspoon of gravy master, which is optional but recommended for flavor and color, as is the 1/2 teaspoon of liquid smoke I'm adding. We're going to mix that up and then add in 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed for some binding help. Now by this time your TVP should be all nice and hydrated, so we're going to dump in our dry seasonings and mix that up with our very clean hands. And then we're going to add in the wet ingredients and again mix that up. And now we've got something that would be perfect for some sausage crumbles, but since we are making patties, we're going to need to add in some more binders. So we're going to start with 30 grams of all-purpose flour. You could totally use any gluten-free flour as well, but we're going to mix that up, and then next we're going to do a 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs. And I totally ran out of these, so I also ended up using panko, which I think I prefer based off of my test. You can use a mixture of both, but the panko does give it more of a chew. For gluten-free, you could also use some oats. I would probably pulse them in a blender to break them up, but no matter what you use, I recommend adding a couple tablespoons at a time until you get a good, solid consistency. I ended up using close to 1 cup of breadcrumbs for this, and it should feel pretty close to the kind of plant-based meat you get at the store, and it should easily stick together to form a patty. I like to toss the patty back and forth to make sure it holds its form. I call it the patty toss test. So once the mixture is good, we're going to go ahead and form our patties. I like to do so with a cookie cutter. Make sure it's as big as your English muffin or even slightly bigger, and I ended up using about 3 to 4 ounces per patty, which will give you about 6 to 8 patties total. Next, over medium-high heat, we just need to grill these in a bit of oil, I would say for about 3 to 4 minutes per side, or until they get nice and browned like so. Once cooked, set them aside to cool, and for contrast, I also made a few patties using store-bought plant-based meat, and as you can see, even though these have both been cooling for a while, with the finished product, it's hard to tell which is which. Even texturally, they are pretty close, though I will admit the TVP is not quite as bouncy. If you have something like methyl cellulose, you could also add in some for some added springiness, but it's not necessary as these are honestly some of the best vegan sausage patties I've ever had and are equally as tasty in my book. Next up is the tofu egg, and this couldn't be easier. Just get yourself some extra or super firm tofu, and I don't press mine, but you could if you like. And then we just want to slice it about a 1/2 inch thick, and depending on your tofu, you're going to get either 3 or 4 slices. And then using the same cookie cutter you shaped your patties with, cut out some round tofu slices, saving the scraps for a scramble or just snack on them like I did. Next, you want to get a shallow dish or plate and add in some seasonings like nutritional yeast, onion and garlic powder, salt, and also black salt, which if you don't know is the secret ingredient to make these taste eggy. It's honestly magical stuff. I don't typically measure out when I do this. Just let your eggy conscience be your guide. Give it a taste, and then when it's good, take your tofu eggs and dip them in the seasoning to coat it on one side. You can totally coat both sides if you like, but I typically just do one. Now we want to grill them in a bit of oil, and the nooch and seasonings will also get nice and crispy as well, adding some nice texture. You can sprinkle on some more black salt after flipping since heat tends to mute the flavor of it a bit. But once those have been grilled for about 3 minutes per side, let them cool on a wire rack along with the sausage patties. For the English muffins, most of the ones I find at the store are plant-based. I know the Thomas brand isn't vegan, but for me, most of the other brands are. I just make sure to check the ingredients, and I went ahead and toasted these, and for my test, it seems like toasting will keep them from getting too chewy after microwaving, so I do recommend toasting them. If you do, make sure you let them cool completely before we assemble our sandwiches. Speaking of which, let's go over that. Once everything is cooled, let's get our bottom muffin, top it with a sausage patty, and then a slice of your favorite vegan cheese, and now our tofu patty, and then the top muffin. And I prefer to wrap mine in parchment paper like so, and then we're gonna double wrap in foil. And if you're storing these for a while, I recommend putting them in a freezer safe bag as well. And now you have a bunch of McMuffins ready to be eaten whenever you want. And while those are freezing, I'm gonna whip up a quick breakfast sauce like McDonald's. And I've never had this, but a lot of folks have requested I make it. And when looking into other recipes, the ingredients were the same, but the amounts varied quite a bit. So I went ahead and just whipped up a version that I thought was good. So we're gonna start with an entire cup of vegan mayo, and then about a quarter cup of yellow mustard, 2 teaspoons each of vinegar, steak sauce, nutritional yeast, dried dill weed, and then salt and pepper to taste. And I was super curious about this, and it's actually totally freaking scrumptious, so definitely make it if you can. It's tangy and zippy and just a perfect condiment. I also like whipping up a quick sriracha ketchup, which is literally just equal amounts sriracha and ketchup. Now to reheat the McMuffin, I highly suggest the microwave. You can totally use an oven, but it will take like 30 to 40 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The microwave, however, you just gotta unwrap the foil and leave it in the parchment paper and then nuke it for about 2 to 3 minutes depending on your microwave, flipping halfway through. Let it sit for a minute or so after it's done, or risk burning your hands, but then we're gonna unwrap it, and the parchment paper helps steam and melt the cheese to perfection. And of course you could dig in like this, but why not add some of that breakfast sauce you made? And you know what's even better? Adding a hash brown. And this might be the ultimate breakfast sandwich. That hash brown just adds some nice contrasting texture and flavor. I mean, it's potatoes, which can do no wrong. It's just ridiculously good. So as you can see, with a bit of planning, you can have a sausage McMuffin in just a few minutes every morning of the week. I've seriously been eating these every day since filming, so I really hope you all give this a try. And also, check out my freezer-friendly breakfast burritos video as well. Link right here, and until then, I'll see you all next time.